How's it going? Check, check. Mic is good. Mic should be good. All right, here we go. How's everybody doing? All right, so the book of Mark. We're going back to the book of Mark here. I'm going to start with Mark chapter 8. How are y'all doing? Let me change my page here because I'm taking some notes. I was doing some notes on Hebrews. All right, here we go. Take some notes here. All right, it's 9 o'clock. Here, feeding the 4,000. All right, so I'm gonna go through feeding the 4,000. All right, Mark chapter 8. In those days, the multitude being very great and having nothing to eat, Jesus called his disciples to him and said to them, I have compassion on multitude, because they have now continued with me 3 days and have nothing to eat. And if I send them away hungry to their own houses, they will faint on the way, for some of them have come afar. All right, so Jesus is about to feed the 500 here. Here we go. Let me see, send them away hungry. The 4,000, I'm sorry. So Jesus is about to feed the 4,000. Then his disciples answered him, how can one satisfy these people with bread here in the wilderness? He asked them, how many loaves do you have? And they said, 7. So he commanded the multitude to sit down on the ground, and he took the 7 loaves and gave thanks, broke them and gave them to his disciples to set before them. And they set them before the multitude. They also had a few small fish, and having blessed them, he said to set them also before them. So they ate and were filled. And they took up 7 large baskets of leftover fragments. Now those who had eaten were about 4,000. He sent them away. All right, so Jesus just fed 4,000 people. Immediately he got into the boat with his disciples and came to the region of Damanuta. All right, here we go, 11. So we're Mark chapter 8, verse 11. Then the Pharisees came out and began to dispute with him, seeking from him a sign from heaven, testing him. But he sighed deeply in his spirit and said, why does this generation seek a sign? Surely I say to you, no sign shall be given to this generation. Right? So remember, one thing to remember is, hey, different generations see different things. All right, different things happen in different generations. Now the Pharisees, they wanted to see a sign, and Jesus told them, why does this generation seek a sign? Surely I say to you, no sign shall be given to this generation. All right, and he left them, and getting into the boat again, departed to the other side. Now the disciples had forgotten to take bread, and they did not have more than 1 loaf with them on the boat. Then he charged them, saying, take heed, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of the Herod. And they reasoned among themselves, saying, it is because we have no bread. All right, we're on Luke chapter 8, verse 17. All right, so Jesus is actually going to get on them real quick. He says, but Jesus, being aware of it, said to them, why do you reason because you have no bread? So Jesus telling them, like, why do y'all reason because we have no bread? Like, Jesus just finished feeding 4,000 people, and they're saying, oh, it's because we don't have no bread. They forgot to bring the bread. But Jesus being aware of it, said to them, why do you reason because you have no bread? Do you not yet perceive nor understand? Is your heart still hardened? So Jesus getting on the apostles, having eyes, do you not see? And having ears, do you not hear? And do you not remember when I broke the 5 loaves for 5,000? How many baskets full of fragments did you take up? So Jesus here is saying, hey, I just fed like all these people, and we're worried about food here. They said to him, 12. Also, when I broke the 7 for the 4,000, how many large baskets full of fragments did you take up? And they said 7. So he said to them, how is it you do not understand? All right, here we go. Chapter 8, verse 22. How are y'all doing, man? I don't see myself as smart. I'm kind of just reading. How y'all doing? Where y'all from? I'm from Texas. Houston, Texas. All right, I'm just reading the word. Hey, follow along if you like. Whatever. It's all good. All right. So this one right here, this is an interesting story here. So a blind man healed in Bethesda. Then he came to Bethesda, and they brought a blind man to him and begged him to touch him. So remember, the book of Mark is healings. Like Jesus is just going around healing, healing, healing. So here's another healing. So he took the blind man by the hand and led him out of town. And when he had spit on his eyes and put his hands on him, he asked him if he saw anything. And he looked up and said, I see men like trees walking. Then he put his hands on his eyes again and made him look up. And he was restored and saw everyone clearly. All right, so this is where Jesus healed this man's vision. All right. Then he sent him away to his house, saying, neither go into town nor tell anyone in town. That is huge. All right, so remember, Book of Mark is just Jesus is just healing, and he's just doing. All right. Here we go. 27. Now Jesus and his disciples went out to the town of Caesarea Philippi, and on the road he asked his disciples, saying to them, "Who do men say that I am?" All right. So now Jesus wants to know from the people, like, "Hey, who do you think I am?" Like he asked us, saying, "Who do men say that I am?" So he's like, "Who do men say that I am?" That's what Jesus is telling them. So they answered, John the Baptist. You're like, John the Baptist, maybe. King Herod, he thought John the Baptist resurrected, and oh, it's John the Baptist. No, Jesus and John the Baptist are different. And it says, but some say Elijah, and others one of the prophets. So this is the people are saying like, oh, is that Elijah, or is he one of the prophets? But this is Jesus Christ, Son of God. All right. He said to them, all right, now, but who do you say that I am? So now he asked them, like, who do you think I am? And Peter answered and said to him, you are the Christ, which is the right answer. You are the Christ. Then he strictly warned them that they should tell no one about him. All right, 31. And he began to teach them, the Son of Man must suffer things and be rejected by elders and chief priests and scribes and be killed after 3 days and rise again. He spoke these words openly. Then Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But when he had turned around and looked at his disciples, he rebuked Peter, saying, get behind me, Satan, for you are not mindful of the things of God, but the things of men. This one right here is huge. All right, this is huge. All right, so I'm going to read that one more time. And he began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer. All right, so Jesus has to suffer many things and be rejected by the elders and chief priests and scribes and be killed. All right, so that's what's going to happen to Jesus. He's saying this is what's supposed to happen. So Jesus, it says here, the Son of Man must suffer. Jesus must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders and the chief priests and scribes. So by all pretty much the teachers. So he has to be rejected by the teachers and be killed. So Jesus is going to be killed. And after 3 days, rise again. All right, that's the gospel. So that's what's supposed to happen to Jesus here. He spoke these words openly. So after hearing these words, this is Peter's response. So and began to rebuke him. All right, but when he turned around and looked at his disciples, he rebuked Peter, saying, so Peter rebukes him like, no, like you, pretty much like you can't die. Like no, this will not happen to you. But this is a godly thing here. All right. So Jesus' response is, but when he had turned, he looked at his disciples, he rebuked Peter. So this is Jesus' response. Get behind me, Satan, for you are not mindful of the things of God, but the things of men. This is something godly here. This is like a godly mission. All right. So he says, get behind me, Satan. Like he doesn't know, like, hey, get behind me, Satan. All right. That is huge. So anybody against this happening, like Jesus is going to die on the cross, like, hey, he's saying, get behind me, Satan. Like, no, this has to happen. This is how salvation is going to happen. All right, here we go. When he had called the people to himself with his disciples, also he said to them, whoever desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake and the gospel's will save it. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? So this is a huge verse, right? A lot of people say, for what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? This is huge, especially in this generation, all right? I understand, like, hey, I'm here on YouTube, and let's just say, what will it profit if a man, let's say I get subscribers and all this and that and popularity. What if for what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world? What if I gain the whole world but you lose your own soul. All right, that's huge. Or what will a man give in exchange for his soul? So what will a man give for his own soul? For whoever is ashamed of me and my word and this adulterous and sinful generation of him, the Son of Man also will be ashamed when he comes in the glory of his Father with the holy angels. And he said to them, assuredly I say to you, there are some standing here, who will not taste death till they see the kingdom of God present with power. All right, that's chapter 9. So we're on chapter 9. This is a huge verse. Chapter 9. All right. Now, after 6 days, Jesus took Peter, James, and John. All right. Those are like the biggest apostles here. Peter, James, and John, and led them up on a high mountain apart by themselves, and he was transferred before them. His clothes became shining, exceedingly white, like snow, such as no launder on earth can whiten them. All right, so Jesus transcends here. It says here, his clothes, shining. His clothes became shining, exceedingly white, like snow. So he's like transcend. It's like a glow. So Jesus pretty much is glowing here. Like his clothes became shining, exceedingly white, like snow, such as no launderer on earth can whiten them. So his clothes became like so white, like nothing on earth can whiten them. Like he's glowing. And Elijah appeared to them with Moses, and they were talking with Jesus. All right. So Elijah, I believe in the book of Kings, like he's taken to heaven, like he is taken up. All right. So Elijah never died. Appeared to them with Moses. Here's Moses. So Jesus, Elijah, and Moses are all like here on this mountain, and Jesus is shining, like he's glowing. All right. And Peter walks in on that. All right. So here's Peter. Then Peter answered and said to Jesus, Rabbi, it is good for us to be here, and let us make 3 tabernacles, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. So Peter, he's just talking like, hey, the first thing he thinks about is, hey, let's create 3 tabernacles, one for each of y'all. He just like, hey, small talk. He just, all right, because he did not know what to say. So Peter didn't know what to say. Like, oh well, let's just make 3 tabernacles. But it says here, because he did not know what to say, for they were greatly afraid. And a cloud came and overshadowed them, and a voice came out of the cloud saying, this is my beloved son, hear him. So God speaks. He says, this is my beloved son, hear him. So this is the second time, like, hey, remember when Jesus got baptized? A voice came out of the clouds. Here again, the voice comes out, this is my beloved son, hear him. All right, God says that, all right, out of the clouds. Suddenly, when they had looked around, they saw no one anymore, but only Jesus with themselves. Now, so all this happened. This is a huge event here. So all this happened, and it's kind of like, what did we just witness? Like, wow, that is huge. Now, as they came down from the mountain, he commanded them that they should tell no one the things they had seen till the Son of Man has risen from the dead. So like, hey, y'all not gonna tell nobody what just happened until I rise from the dead. All right, that's pretty much what he's saying here. How's it going, Brendy Gaming? Yep, I remember you. The Nike sign. How's it going? All right, thank you very much for being on. Thank you very much. All right, here we go. Luke chapter 9, verse 10. So they kept his word. So remember what just happened, the transition here. He says, hey, don't tell nobody until I resurrect. Here we go, 10. So they kept his word to themselves, questioning what the rising from the dead meant. So it's just like, we just witnessed something huge here, and we can't tell nobody. And they asked him, saying, why do the scribes say that Elijah comes first? Then he answered and told them, indeed, Elijah is coming first and restores all things. And how is it written concerning the Son of Man, that he must suffer many things and be treated with contempt? But I say to you that Elijah has also come, and they did to him whatever they wished, as it is written of him. And when he came to the disciples, he saw a great multitude around them and scribes disputing with them. Immediately when they saw him, all the people were greatly amazed, and running to him, greeted him. And he asked the scribes, what are you discussing with them? So like, hey, what are y'all discussing? And then one of the crowd answered and said, teacher, I brought you my son, who was a mute spirit. And whatever it seizes him, it throws him down. He foams at the mouth gnashes his teeth, and becomes rigid. So I spoke to your disciples that they should cast it out, but they could not. All right. So earlier in the book of Mark, Jesus gave them the power to cast out demons and to heal the sick. Now here's something here. They're saying like, hey, they tried to cast out this spirit and they couldn't. That is huge. All right, so it's like, hey, we still have these powers. Like we could still cast out demons. We could still heal. This is the argument that they use. Like, hey, right here, the apostles couldn't do it. All right, it says, so I spoke your disciples. So I spoke to your disciples that they should cast it out, but they could not. They couldn't cast out the spirit. He answered him and said, so this is Jesus talking, O faithless generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I bear with you? Bring him to me. So Jesus is like, all right, here, I'm going to do it. Then they brought him to him, and when he saw him, immediately the spirit convulsed him, and he fell on the ground and wallowed foaming in the mouth. So he asked his father, how long has it been happening to him? And he said, from childhood. So this child was like convulsing since childhood. And often he has thrown him both in the fire and into the water to destroy him. But if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us. Jesus said to him, if you can believe, all things are possible to him who believes. Immediately the father of the child cried out and said with tears, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. When Jesus saw that the people came running together, he rebuked the unclean spirit, saying to it, deaf and dumb spirit, I command you, come out of him and enter him no more. So Jesus casts out the spirit. All right. Then the spirit cried out, convulsed him greatly, and came out of him, and he became as one dead, so that many said, he is dead. But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him up, and he arose. And when he had come into the house, his disciples asked him privately, why could we not cast it out? So the disciples want to know, like, how come we weren't able to do this? Like, we weren't able to cast them out. So he said to them, this kind can come out by nothing but prayer and fasting. So it was a strong spirit. All right, that's huge. It was the spirit was so strong that, hey, this kind can come out by nothing but prayer and fasting. Wow. So in order to get the spirit out, required fasting, right? Prayer and fasting. That is huge. All right, here we go. How's it going? How's it going? All right, here we go. Then they departed from there and passed through Galilee, and he did not want anyone to know it, for he thought his disciples, and said to them, the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of men, and they will kill him, and after he is killed, he will rise the third day. So again, Jesus saying the gospel, Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of men, and they will kill him, and after he is killed, he will rise the third day. So that's the gospel. He will rise the third day. All right, here we go. But they did not understand this saying, and were afraid to ask him. All right, so they were afraid to ask him, like, okay, he just said he's going to die and resurrect after 3 days. Here we go, 33. Then when he came to Capernaum, and when he was in the house, he asked them, what was it you disputed amongst yourself on the road? But they kept silent. For one, the road they had disputed among themselves who would be the greatest. And he sat down, called the 12, and said to them, if anyone desires to be first, he shall be last of all, servants of all. This is huge. So we shouldn't desire to be first. Like, hey, I'm better, this and that. No, we shouldn't desire that. Whoever does that is going to be last. That's pretty much what Jesus is saying here. All right, because they're like arguing like, who? I'm the best. I'm the favorite, this and that. Hey, whoever, he sat down, called the 12, and said to them, if anyone desires to be first, he shall be last of all, the servants of all. So you shouldn't desire to be like the first, like the favorite servant, right? The one that desires it shall be the last. Then he took a little child and set him in the midst of them. And when he had taken him in his arms, he said to them, so he has a child in his hand, whoever receives one of these little children in my name receives me. And whoever receives me receives not me, but him who sent me. Right? This is huge. Now John answered him, saying, Teacher, we saw someone who does not follow us casting out demons in your name, and we forbade him because he does not follow us. But Jesus said, do not forbid him, for no one who works a miracle in my name can soon afterwards speak evil of me. All right? So if you work a miracle, for no one who works a miracle in my name can soon afterwards speak evil of me. So you can't work a miracle and then speak evil. For he who is not against us is on our side. For whoever gives you a cup of water to drink in my name because you belong to Christ, surely I say to you, he will by no means lose his reward. All right? So help people that speak in Jesus' name. Man, that's great. Oh my God. All right. All right, here we go. Chapter 9, verse 42. But whoever causes one of the little ones, oh, this is huge. The little ones who believe in me to stumble, it would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were thrown into the sea. So don't cause people to stumble. That's pretty much what he's saying here. Don't cause people to stumble. If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. It is better for you to enter into life maimed rather than having two hands to go to hell and to fire and that shall never be quenched. All right. Their warm does not die and fire is not quenched. All right. How's it going? How's it going? And if your foot, does anybody have any questions, by the way? Do you have any questions? And if your foot causes you to sin, cut it off. It is better. So this is the Old Testament right here. It is better for you to enter life lame rather than having 2 feet to be cast into hell, into the fire that shall never be quenched, where their worm does not die and fire is not quenched. I'm going to read this again. And if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. It is better for you to enter the kingdom of God with one eye rather than having 2 eyes to be cast into hell fire, where their worm does not die and fire is not quenched. All right. So this is how serious this is. All right. So Jesus saying here, and if your foot causes you to sin, cut it off. Like, hey, that's how serious it is. Like, hey, don't sin. Like, Jesus is serious about this. It is better for you to enter life lame rather than having 2 feet to be cast into hell, into the fire that shall never be quenched, where their worm does not die and the fire is not quenched. And if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. It is better for you to enter the kingdom of God with one eye rather than having 2 eyes to be cast into hell fire, where the worm does not die, the fire is not quenched. For everyone will be seasoned with fire, and every sacrifice will be seasoned with salt. Salt is good, but if the salt loses its flavor, how will you season it? Have salt in yourselves and have peace with one another. All right. Then he arose. Then he arose from there and came to the region of Judea, by the other side of the Jordan, and multitudes gathered to him again, and he was accustomed. He taught them again. The Pharisees came and asked him. All right, so here they're going to test Jesus here. Is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife? All right, this is one of those huge topics. All right, this is huge. So he's saying the Pharisees came and asked him, is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife? Testing him. They're going to test Jesus here. All right. And he answered and said to them, what did Moses command? Hey, what did Moses say about this? They said, Moses permitted a man to write certificate of divorce and to dismiss her. All right. So again, this is like, I mean, it's like the 3rd or 4th time I read this in the Bible. Like, it keeps coming up. How do you divorce? All right. This is a huge topic. All right. What's the process of divorce? All right. And they're saying, he asked, what did Moses command you to do? Like, what did Moses say about it? Then he said, Moses permitted a man to write a certificate of divorce and to dismiss her. So it's like, all you have to do is write a certificate of divorce and dismiss her. All right, but it's not that simple. All right, here we go. And Jesus answered and said to them, because of the hardness of your heart, he wrote you this precept. So that, hey, because your heart was hardened, he had to write this because people wanted a divorce. People wanted a way out. You know, that's pretty much what he's saying. Like, people wanted a way out. But from the beginning of creation, God made them male and female. For this reason, man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So then they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let not man separate. So a marriage is not to be separated. All right. So it's not like, oh, all you have to do is write a letter certificate of divorce and that's it. No, hey, the original plan is no divorce. That's the original plan. All right. So the original plan was no divorce, but because people's heart got hardened, they made a way for divorce to happen. And it's saying here, write a certificate of a divorce. All right. But, he's saying, remember, that was not part of the plan from the very beginning. The beginning was man and female, and whatever God made is not to be separated. All right. That is huge. In the house, his disciples also asked him again about the same matter. So he said to them, whoever divorces his wife and marries another commits adultery against her. And if a woman divorces her husband and marries another, she commits adultery. So he's pretty much telling you, like, hey, don't divorce. Like, discouraging divorce. Do not divorce. All right? That's what he's saying. Do not divorce. So that is huge to remember. If you're married, man, that is huge to remember. All right? Yeah, he might, but the disciples rebuke. All right, how's it going? Man, today's just been. Man, today's just been like, man. All right, how y'all doing? Anybody got any questions? Questions? Anything? Anybody got any questions? All right, so we just talked about divorce. Um, it's not encouraged to be divorced. All right, that's one of the biggest things here. Right, Jesus said, "Hey, from the very beginning, hey, divorce wasn't a thing." All right, that's what he's saying here. And if you, God made them male and female. For this reason, man shall leave his father and his mother, be joined to his wife. That is important to remember when you're married. When you get married, is hey, man, female. It says here, for this, but from the beginning of the creation, God made them male and female. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife. All right, so this is a divorce. It's the process of marriage. Like, hey, man, female. That's how it started in the beginning. For this reason, man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife. So, hey, the male is joined to the wife, and the two shall become one flesh. You become one flesh. So that's a marriage, one flesh, male, female, one flesh. All right, that's God's plan. So then they are no longer two, but one flesh. You're no longer two separate things. You are one flesh. All right. Therefore, what God has joined together, let not man separate. So, hey, God joined you together. Let not man separate. Don't get separate. So he said to them, whoever divorces his wife and marries another commits adultery against her. So, like, hey, yeah, you can write a letter certificate, but you divorce your wife, guess what? You're committing adultery. That's what Jesus is saying here. Marries another, commits adultery against her. And if a woman divorces her husband and marries another, she commits adultery. So if the wife, like, divorces you and, gets married, hey, she's committing adultery. All right, here we go. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. Chapter 10. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. Chapter 10, verse 12. All right, so we talked about Jesus feeding the 5,000. We talked about marriage, divorce. We talk about what else we talk about? Jesus in the mount, he transfigured. All right, he shined. All right, he next to Elijah and Moses. We talked about that. All right, we talk about these healings. All right, the apostles couldn't cast out a demon, yet Jesus did, and he said, "Hey, the only way to cast this demon is strong." This was a huge. All right. And he says the only way to do it was through prayer and fasting. That is huge. All right. That is huge. This kind can come out by nothing but prayer and fasting. All right. Let me see. So that's what we went through today. feeding 4,000. So Jesus fed the 4,000. All right, so I'm gonna leave it at that. Spent 30 minutes. Thank you very much. God bless. Unless you have any questions or anything, God bless, man. So I read for like 30 minutes today. How's it going? How's it going? Got any questions? Anything? Let's see here. So tomorrow, or probably I don't know, either tomorrow or Saturday, I'm gonna keep on going.
I didn't get that. Could you try?
Ooh, no Siri. Let me see. Yeah, so I'm trying to finish up the book of Mark. Let me see the parable of the. Let me see. I'm just looking through real quick how much more I got for the book of Mark. So we're gonna do the crucifixion. He is risen. So probably the crucifixion, like 2 more lives that I do. Found a return to Nazareth. To law, they returned to Galilee, and then the child grew and became. Let me see. Oh, okay, so there we go. So that's the book of Luke. All right, so I'm probably gonna finish this in maybe 2 or 3 more sits. All right, 2 or 3 more. Let me see the book of Mark. He rises, chapter 16, and then we go into the book of Mark. So I'm on chapter 10. All right, so I got probably like 5.5 chapters left. All right, and of course it ends with Jesus rising. Let me see. So he was received up in heaven. Said, yep. So and that's where it ends. All right. So that's one of the Gospels according to Mark. Itchings. All right. That's where I'm gonna go. Let me see here. I don't know. I'm gonna read some random stuff. I'm just gonna read let me see. Maybe I go to Psalms or Proverbs. I just feel like kind of reading. Better is the poor who walks in his integrity, the one who is perverse in his lips and is a fool. Also, it is not good for a soul to be without knowledge, and he sins who hastens with his feet. The foolishness of a man twists his way, and his heart fret against the Lord. Wealth makes many friends, but the poor is separate from his friend.
Which one?
Oh my God.
All right then.
All right, here we go. Proverbs chapter 20. Wine is a mocker. Strong drink is a brawler. And whoever is led astray by it is not wise. The wrath of a king is like a roaring of a lion. Whoever provokes him to anger sins against his own life. It is honorable for a man to stop striving, since any fool can start a quarrel. The lazy man will not plow because of winter. He will beg during harvest and have nothing. That's huge. 20 verse 4. Counsel in the heart of man is like deep water, but a man of understanding will draw it out. Most men will proclaim each of his own goodness, but who find a faithful man? The righteous man walks in his integrity. His children are blessed after him. A king who sits on the throne of judgment scatters all evil with his eyes. Who can say, I have made my heart clean, I am pure from my sin? The hearing of the ear. Do not love sleep, lest you come to poverty. Open your eyes, and you will be satisfied. All right, Proverbs chapter 20. Chapter 20, verse 13. Do not sleep. Do not sleep. All right, so I'm going to give a verse real quick. Proverbs chapter 20, verse 13. All right, so this is kind of a prosperity verse here. All right, do not love sleep, lest you come to poverty. Open your eyes, and you will be satisfied with bread. All right, so don't love sleep. That's pretty much what it's saying here. Do not love sleep, lest you come to poverty. So if you love sleep, hey, you're probably going to land in poverty. Open your eyes and you will be satisfied with bread. Hey, open your eyes, be active, and you will be satisfied with bread. That's what it's saying there. It is good for nothing, cries the buyer, but when he has gone his way, then he boasts. There is gold and a multitude of rubies, but the lips of knowledge are a precious jewel. Take the garment of one who is surely for a stranger, and hold it as a pledge when it is for a seductress. Bread gained by deceit is sweet to a man, but afterwards his mouth will be filled with gravel. All right. Plans are established by counsel. By wise counsel, wage war. All right. I'm gonna end it at that. All right. I'm gonna try to